Hi and welcome back to Love English. I'm Leila and today I want to help you sound smarter in English. For this lesson, you won't need a pair of glasses actually, but you will need to think of synonyms. Today I'll be going through 10 expressions in English to help you sound smarter, more formal, more academic, or more businesslike, depending on the situation. And you won't need a pair of these for that. Before we get started, don't forget to click the subscribe button and of course the notifications bell until it looks like this, so that you will be one of the first to be notified when we upload new lessons. And of course, now you can also visit www.loveenglish.co.uk to learn more about Sabrah and me. There's lots of information, pictures, links to our social media, as well as a free sample of our vocabulary course. So let's get started. 10 expressions to make you sound super smart. So number 1, instead of saying everyone thinks, or that's everyone's opinion, all people think the same, you can say that's the consensus or the general consensus. When we say general consensus, it's softening your language. You can't assume that everyone thinks the same. So for example, the general consensus in the UK, probably globally at the moment, is that Brexit is really crazy, whether you're pro-leave or pro-remain. You can also use it in the question form. What's the general consensus? Meaning, what do you think most people are in agreement on? This kind of phrase is perfect for business meetings. Rather than saying, what does everyone think? You can say, what's the general consensus? It's also perfect at university, in academia, if you're having a debate or a seminar discussion. That's the general consensus. Number 2, it's a common misconception. Misconception means that people often think this, but it's actually wrong. It's usually that people have got their information from the wrong source and they have simply misunderstood something. So for example, it's a common misconception that English people only drink tea. We actually drink a lot of coffee these days. So rather than everybody has the wrong idea, it's a common misconception. People frequently think something that is not true based on faulty or inaccurate information. Number 3, a great word, a fun word. Repeat it with me. Prerogative. 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 4 syllables. Stress on the second syllable. Prerogative. This can sometimes be used in a kind of ironic way. We often say, as women, we have the prerogative to change our minds. It's our prerogative as women. So basically we have the right or privilege to something. It's often used when we talk about upper classes and people with certain privileges, but it can also be used as a kind of expression. It's my prerogative to choose the expensive wine. Or it's our prerogative to have a good education. So rather than saying, I'm allowed, I should have, it's my right, it's my prerogative. Right, so number 4 is a great expression and it's essentially used as an intensifier to deny something that has been said, to say actually the opposite is true. On the contrary. On the contrary. Contrary. So 3 syllables there. On the contrary. I really enjoy your cooking. Or quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. I really enjoyed that meal. So you're using this expression to contrast, meaning actually, that's not true. This is true. You can also say, contrary to popular opinion, many people are confident that Brexit will be a success. We'll see. Number 5, this is a great expression because it means we avoid using that common, boring verb to think. Instead of using think, we can use consider. And if we want to sound a little bit more sophisticated, academic, businesslike, we could say taking into consideration, meaning we're thinking with careful thought, not just like that, but we're actually thinking about all the different factors and things that can influence something. So it's careful thought, not just general thought. You need to take into consideration all the different factors when deciding what university to go to. What are your goals in English? What are your aims? Boring. Why don't you try, what are your English aspirations? What do you aspire to be able to do? What level are you aspiring to gain? To aspire, or the noun aspirations, what are your aspirations in life, simply means what are your goals, what are your aims or objectives. Objectives is quite a nice word there as well, but aspirations does sound a little bit more academic or businesslike and certainly will help you sound a lot smarter. So what are your aspirations? What level would you like to reach in English? What career aspirations do you have? What do you aspire to be? Now, talking about English, do you sometimes lack motivation? You haven't got the energy to pick up another grammar book, or maybe not even watch a grammar lesson with us. Well, maybe you are lacking impetus. So rather than saying motivation, which actually is not too bad a word to use at all, it's quite neutral, impetus is a little bit more uncommon and more advanced to use. He's lacking the impetus to study. Here we're saying lacking rather than he doesn't have a lot. It just sounds, again, more academic, more formal, and again, makes you sound a little bit smarter. Number 8, I love the sound of this word. I think it sounds brilliant. Conundrum. The stress is on the second syllable. It's not conundrum, but conundrum. So this simply means problem, issue. It's a bit of a conundrum. I find myself in a bit of a conundrum. I want to learn English, but I haven't got an English speaking partner. Number 9, and I'm probably going to use Brexit as my example again. Controversial, the adjective, or controversy, the noun. In this case, we are referring to something that causes an argument where people have very differing opinions. Brexit is a controversial issue, so much that we're not allowed to talk about it at work. It's a complex problem that's causing a lot of people to argue. It's very controversial. Asking someone's opinion. Of course, you can say, what's your opinion? Or what do you think? But instead of that, we could say, what's your perspective? What's your perspective? Perspective is talking about somebody's opinion from their position, how they view things. What's your perspective on Brexit? Everyone's going to have a slightly different opinion. If you are living in the country, if you're British, if you are European, or if you're from another country, everybody is going to have slightly different opinions because they have different perspectives. They are looking at it from a different viewpoint. You could also say, what's your take on this? What's your take on this? It has a similar meaning to what's your perspective, slightly more informal. Perspective would be a much better word to use in a business meeting situation. What's your perspective on this? Should we go for the deal or not? And there we go, 10 expressions to sound smarter, more intelligent, to be able to have a business meeting more effectively with a better range of English expressions and vocabulary. Do make sure that you try learning some of these fixed expressions and of course the collocations that go with certain verbs and nouns. This is going to help you build your vocabulary much faster and of course reach that more advanced level quicker. Don't forget, we've got lots more lessons to help you develop your vocabulary and expressions in English. So learning English might not be so much of a conundrum after all.